consideration of Brownfield Plan number 24 for the City Center District to be located at 125 and 133, 135, 201, and 209 East Grand River and 200 Albert Avenue. This is a public hearing. I do have a couple of cards that for individuals who reserved some time to speak to this as well. And I'll start out with Jay Brant. Mr. Brant.
Thank you. Regarding the Brownfield plan, I ended up supporting the Park District proposal. And I'd like to point out why, in my mind, the Park District and this project are very, very different. In the Park District, we had a problem, the evergreen properties, 6 million or so in the hole. And as I think some of us have learned in this process, tax increment financing allows the city to undertake something for basically 30 cents on the dollar. And to me, that made sense for the Park District, so that the city could get out from under the 6 million or so hole regarding the evergreen properties. And we were not gambling anything. The plan, the Brownfield plan for Center City, is a big gamble. It's a big gamble for several reasons, but primarily it's a big gamble because we're taking the parking lot number 1, which brings the city, nets the city $537,000 a year, and those are real dollars. And we're going to gamble that so that we can have, 1, density. That's student housing density. Now, I know that the planning department and for some of you, density for downtown has been a mantra for some time. But I never hear anyone explain why that is a good thing, especially if it's student housing. And as I said, I heard no explanation from anybody, council members, staff, as to why that is a good thing. And I would submit to you, in terms of retail, be it a market, be it bars, students don't seem to have much trouble finding their way downtown. So whether they're living in this 12-story tower on Grand River Avenue or living somewhere nearby, they'll find their way downtown. So I don't buy that student housing density is a good thing. Now, I appreciate the fact that the developer, as some of you have indicated, seems to have bent over backwards to accommodate concerns and make changes and so on, and that's all to the good. But almost any developer with any sense, if you throw 20 plus million or 58 million, including interest, in tax increment financing their way to construct a parking garage, primarily to make it financially feasible to build a 12-story student tower, they're going to want to accommodate you. There are, of course, a lot of problems that I spoke to regarding the site plan, but with respect to the Brownfield plan, and now we get into the development agreement a bit, the city's going to end up owning this parking structure, of course. And the last time we got into a parking structure paid for by tax increment financing, after 30 years, we had to renovate the parking structure. So now we've got a 60-year TIF to renovate a parking structure. So the city hasn't done particularly well in doing these public-private deals. There's the one housing deal. There's the City Center 2, which didn't get very far, but one reason it didn't get very far was because of the choices that we made of a developer. But we live in a very uncertain time economically. We live in Trump world. No one knows what is coming tomorrow. And somehow the market is still floating along on the Trump bubble. But that's not going to last forever. Look where we were in 2008. Who was forecasting the huge downturn? Next to nobody, except a couple of Sharpies who figured out a way to get rich off it. So we live in a very uncertain time, and I think the risk here of this project failing, assuming it gets off the ground, the risk of it failing is very significant. If you look at there are 5 basic economic elements in this plan, and if you assume that every one of them has an 80% chance of success, by the time you multiply that out, 80% to the power of 5, you're now less than 33% at a risk of failure rate. So I love the enthusiasm. It's just wonderful, but I don't think it's very realistic. And I notice no one has spoken up as to having seen the actual unredacted market survey for the 55 and over housing. I assume if you had, you would say something. The city is in a partnership, will be in a partnership with this developer. I mean, it's a little like what the states, including Michigan, have done with the tobacco settlement. They don't spend the tobacco settlement running ads to try to get people to stop smoking. It just goes into the general fund. So the state's in a partnership with the tobacco companies. So we would be in a partnership with the developer. And if there's a problem with the market for the 55 and over housing, how ready are you going to be to pull the plug? You're not going to be ready to pull the plug. The bonds will have been issued. The revenue is necessary to pay the bonds. And everybody keeps saying non-recourse bonds. What do you think it would do to the city's bond rating if there's a default on those bonds? So it's not like a free lunch. The city would pay dearly. So there's so many reasons to be concerned about where this is going, and I'll speak to a few more of them when we get to the development agreement. Thank you.